We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that.
These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake.
When Karoline Leavitt made some bombshell allegations, the hosts of The View were left defending themselves in a state of complete chaos.
Democrats in the media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. Watch this.
Karoline Leavitt's expose has everyone talking, and today we're going to dive deep into what happened, why, and how it affects the show's future. You have come to the correct spot if you have been seeking the truth about what precipitated this breakdown. Karoline Leavitt's seismic political shifts have put the drama on full display.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
It's no secret that The View enjoys causing controversy, but they certainly took on too much this time. The Democrats wasted no time attacking Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, as soon as she entered the limelight.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
But their slander campaign didn't just fail, it completely backfired. What started as petty envy has now left their reputations in shambles. Thanks to Karoline's no-holds-barred approach, the presenters of The View are racing to clean up their own mess. And trust me, the repercussions is nothing short of stunning. Joy Behar, a self-proclaimed feminist who never misses a chance to lecture about empowering women, just crossed a boundary that's impossible to ignore. Instead of honoring Karoline Leavitt's accomplishments, she reduced her success to nothing more than her appearance. This hypocrisy is glaring. How can someone profess to defend women's rights and then tear down a young, accomplished woman in the same breath? Well, Karoline is in a league of her own and didn't hesitate for a second to call out these woke pals.
These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake.
But hold on, what happens to Joy Behar if Karoline is a 10? The punchline was delivered in his trademark manner by none other than Fox News' Greg Gutfeld. Greg was unrestrained in his criticism of Joy, which caused everyone to start chatting. Let's just say that Joy wasn't helped by his remarks. The internet hasn't stopped laughing since, to be honest.
Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing.
However, Karoline didn't stop at Joy Behar. She also had some harsh things to say about the Democratic propaganda darlings. She made it very apparent that they have two choices, either follow the Trump trend or fade into obscurity, because they won't have any scandals or media-driven diversions to keep them in the spotlight after Trump is done with them. Their purported relevance is on borrowed time since they are not using their typical propaganda engine to spin stories.
Democrats can either get on board or they can prepare to lose another election just like they did on November.
And they felt every bit of that reality check based on the startled silence on The View. Anyone watching can see that the panel is merely envious that someone younger, more intelligent, and genuinely worthy of the limelight is taking center. Stage, Whoopi Goldberg intervened after Joy Behar's offensive comments, attempting to fabricate yet another story that left Americans in shock. She tried to chastise Karoline for what she saw as a lack of tolerance for weakness by going all mother hen.
Young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Whoopi was rushing to contain the damage rather than provide advice. Karoline, too, she refused to accept it. Whoopi attempted to conflate wokeness and civil rights in a now viral clip, making them seem interchangeable. Karoline, however, was not duped at all. She brutally and precisely pointed out Whoopi's faulty reasoning, exposing the fact that she either doesn't understand the difference or is purposefully misleading her audience. And Whoopi clearly felt that burn based on her. Response?
Women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason
Why didn't Whoopi confront Joy Behar for minimizing Karoline's success to her appearance, given her strong advocacy for women's rights? Her so-called moral compass simply points left, perhaps. Right after the 27-year-old fearlessly used her first White House news conference to criticize the legacy media for losing the faith of regular Americans, Whoopi took the chance to criticize Karoline rather than hold her co-host accountable. In addition, Whoopi skillfully used the race card to try to shift the discussion away from the actual problem and onto identity politics. Traditional deflection.
Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women.
But Whoopi didn't stop there. She went all out condescending, saying Karoline doesn't even know what wokeness is. Whoopi claims that Karoline's criticism was only motivated by her belief that it is a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought, Whoopi said. That's what we're working for, so you and Karine Jean-Pierre may both stand at that podium. Consequently, women of all races, ethnicities, and religious beliefs could have the chance to break through that barrier. But let's face it, Karoline called it out because she understands exactly what wokeness is. Whoopi's effort to mislead the audience by thinking Karoline was merely using trendy terms backfired. Karoline truly blasted The View for their most recent ridiculous claim that Elon Musk was the target of an assassination attempt, as if the hypocrisy wasn't already blatant. In a scathing critique, she drew attention to the absurdity of the host's unrelenting calls for responsibility while carelessly making unfounded charges.
How ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
The media was singing a very different tune only a few years ago, she reminded them. However, they are now so desperate to control the story that they would do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. Karoline wasn't going to let them get away with it, to put it mildly.
They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed.
The View and other traditional media outlets have been operating unchecked for years, promoting whatever story worked for them. They have dominated the discourse, stifled criticism, and influenced public sentiment with little to no repercussions. However, the days of unfettered propaganda are ending because of Karoline's courageous stand. These outlets are finally being held accountable for their reporting as a result of her advocacy for accountability.
She's young, but she's wise beyond her years, and she has access to the president, which is something someone didn't have.
To be honest, that is their worst nightmare. Their whole strategy begins to unravel when they are unable to freely twist the truth. The View is going completely crazy about Karoline Leavitt's recent reversal of the legacy media paradigm. In order to hold traditional media outlets responsible for their years of slanted reporting and blatant disinformation about President Trump, she proposed a radical overhaul of the White House press pool, creating a new media department. When we believe your reporting is inaccurate or that there is false information about this White House, Leavitt said, we will call you out. The White House Correspondents Association and the Associated Press have dominated the conversation for decades, deciding what stories are promoted and who is allowed to ask questions. However, it is no longer the case. Karoline made it very plain that these traditional media outlets will not be allowed to operate unchallenged. 2 front row seats that were previously assigned to White House employees will now be given to voices from the new media that genuinely challenge the status quo. She also reinstated press passes for 440 journalists who had theirs canceled during Biden's presidency, as if that wasn't enough to send The View into a tailspin.
President doesn't surround himself by anybody smart. And Joy Behar and those guys, of course this was going to happen. This is why conservative women just have to move on, do their thing, and not worry about the criticism from folks like at The View.
And we are expecting the media to be hostile.
Although a lot of people applauded this drive for openness, The View panel's response was rather different. After all, they don't want a press corps that actually contradicts their story. This front of room seat, which is typically occupied by the press secretary's staff, will now be known as the new media seat, Karoline said. New media applicants who meet our requirements and successfully complete the United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex will have their applications reviewed by my team and given credentials. And just as expected, the panelists on The View went utterly crazy. Acting as though only the elites of the legacy media should have a place at the table, Sunny Hostin mocked the notion that reporters from new media could be eligible to attend briefings. Whoopi then added her customary holier-than-thou commentary, cautioning that people would just spout stuff under the new government. "We have to have ourselves together, even though I don't always like the way they do it," she added. "Despite what they tell you, we are not allowed to merely spout words. That's what I want for everyone. The irony is that The View and other mainstream media have been doing just that for years, spreading lies, distorting stories, and saying whatever suits their purpose. But Whoopi wants to discuss standards now that Karoline Leavitt is genuinely holding them responsible. Take a break for me."
She was conflating two ideas. This word wokeness didn't look like she really understood what it meant, or certainly the way Karoline Leavitt meant it when she made that statement, and she was conflating it with civil rights and how, women didn't have the right to vote or own property and all of that. That has nothing to do with wokeness, which is, of course, about putting people in there because of their immutable characteristics rather than the merit that they bring to the table.
At the end of the day, attention is more important than ethics or journalism. These presenters enjoy being in the spotlight and telling the public what they believe. Moreover, millions of Americans are now turning away from traditional media in favor of alternate sources. That's the true cause of their worry, because they detest losing control of the narrative, which is happening for the first time in years. Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old press secretary who made history, didn't mince words. She criticized traditional media for losing Americans' trust and noted that more and more people are getting their news from other sources. "We will not accept the fact that there have been lies propagated about this president and his family by numerous legacy media outlets in this country," she said. "If we believe your reporting is inaccurate or contains false information about this White House, we will call you out." Finally, The View is starting to feel the heat. They have been able to propagate false information, defame political rivals, and deceive their audience for years with little to no opposition. However, those times are now officially past. Now they have someone holding them in check, and that someone is none other than Karoline Leavitt, the history-making press secretary who just put the entire traditional media on notice. And let's not forget who Karoline replaced: Karine Jean-Pierre, who never missed a time to remind everyone she was the first black immigrant woman to occupy the office, as if identity alone qualified someone for the job. But competency speaks louder than labels, and Karoline Leavitt has proved that true leadership isn't about ticking diversity boxes. It's about holding authority accountable and speaking for the American people. The women echoing each other tactic was criticized by Jen Psaki, Jean-Pierre's predecessor, who described it as diminishing. Nevertheless, The View keeps using the identity card in the hopes that no one would see how flimsy their arguments are. Karoline, though, that's not the game she's playing. Her job is to do it and do it well. However, The View wasn't finished humiliating themselves yet. Once their cheap jabs failed to take Karoline down, they sought to use the traditional gotcha question regarding illegal immigration to snare her. They believed they had her surrounded. They assumed she would stumble. As a spoiler, she didn't.
Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation.
They wanted her to acknowledge that illegal immigrants would be treated unfairly by Trump's proposals. Karoline, though, she changed the course of events. She reminded them that law-abiding citizens are given precedence over lawbreakers in Trump's America, and then their whole disagreement was over. However, they doubled down, making even more frantic attempts to rewrite the story, instead of conceding defeat.
This administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly—
Let's face it, this wasn't about protecting immigrants, but they love to pretend that they care about justice. They were trying to trip up a woman who was far too intelligent to fall for their stale left-wing narrative. Karoline is having a great time watching them scramble too.
And I loved it. You know why? Because I work for a president who is getting things done, who is delivering on the promises he made to the American people.
She is an expert in her field, and she is not only defending herself, but also relishing every moment of seeing these so-called media elites falter. The problem is that Karoline is challenging not just The View, but the entire legacy media apparatus as a whole. Moreover, she is grinning while she does it. Karoline is revealing not only The View, but their whole strategy.
There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it.
She is ensuring that everyone else follows her exact rules for the game. Legacy media has dominated the conversation for years, manipulating the truth to suit their purposes. Karoline is currently shutting it down in real time, though. What's the best part? They support her argument more and more the more they attempt to defend themselves. Karoline delivered the ultimate truth bomb as a last blow. The View is now totally lost because they have been so focused on appeasing the left.
And the Democrats are in complete disarray because they have become a globalist party who like to spend taxpayer dollars on useless priorities just to cater to the left's demands here at.
They have been only a conduit for the Democratic agenda for years, mindlessly repeating whatever narrative they are given. They are unsure of what to do with themselves now that Karoline is in charge and holding the media responsible. They've been promoting left-wing demands for so long that they break down the moment someone opposes them. Karoline, too, she is thoroughly enjoying it. The View's hypocrisy, bigotry, and desperate attempt to remain relevant have all been revealed in an instant. Not only did Karoline Leavitt call them out, but she also made them confront their own demise in real time.
Vast majority of Americans want the people in Washington to be good stewards of their tax dollars, don't agree with these radical priorities of the left. And so that's why the president is going to continue to do this. The Democrats can either get on board or they can prepare to lose another election.
However, this is only the start. Legacy media channels like The View are frantically trying to maintain control in the face of a changing media landscape, but they are failing horribly. How long can they maintain this masquerade then is the true question. What are your thoughts? Will mainstream media find a way to regain its supremacy, or are we seeing the end of their reign? Tell me in the comments below. This battle is far from done, so please hit the notification bell, like, and subscribe. If you want more brutal breakdowns like this one, in actuality, things are changing. As audiences become more conscious of the ongoing prejudice and spin, they seek out voices that don't hesitate to question the status quo. Karoline Leavitt is only the beginning of a new generation that is prepared to expose the truth and hold the powerful accountable. The hold of legacy media is continuing to wane as more independent voices take the stage. Transparency and truth are causing the old strategy of promoting narratives, stifling dissent, and influencing public opinion to crumble. Furthermore, even though The View and others are still using outdated strategies, it will soon be a thing of the past. Don't be misled though. This change will not be easy. The traditional media will do all in their power to keep its sway. They will intensify smear efforts, increase the number of hit pieces, and try to discredit anyone who dares to oppose them. However, as Karoline has demonstrated, those strategies simply appear to backfire more forcefully. Now, the audience, people like you, has the true power. You contribute to the change each time you decide to look for alternative viewpoints, speak out for yourself, and challenge the dominant narrative. They are frightened by that. This is far from the end of the narrative, so fasten your seatbelts. The era of unbridled dominance for the legacy media is ending, and the fight for the truth is intensifying. Remain attentive, remain inquisitive, and continue to think independently as usual.